welcome everybody to this program and the sixth Yahrzeit of the Rosh Yeshiva. In this week's Parsha's Vayakel. So the Torah tells us about how Hashem infused Getzel with a tremendous amount of wisdom and insight. Says Hashem. Rei Karasi b'Shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur Lamate Yehuda. Betzalel traces him back to the son of Hur in the tribe of Yehuda. The Amalei also Ruach Elyakim b'Chachma Zvuna b'Das b'Chol Malacha. He's got Chachma, Bina, and Das. The whole works here. He's got wisdom, understanding, knowledge, craftsmanship. He's a tremendous Baki. The Levush, and I think others say he was only 13 years old when he was put into this position. And then it says, after it describes what he's going to do, it says, V'anihine nasati ito as Ahuyav ben Achisamach. So I've assigned with him Ahilav ben Achisamach lamate dan. Okay, and it says about him, and I've instilled wisdom into him, and he's going to do everything that they may do, make everything that I commanded you to do. So the way the Torah connects, it connects Betzalel to Oholiav, and it uses the word Hine Nasati Ita. I've placed him with him, meaning that Oholiav is with Betzalel by the word. So Rashi's bothered by the wording of the pasuk because earlier that was Lamed Aleph. Now that's Ito with him. The implication, the next pasuk in Perek Lamed Hey, when it brings both of them, there it says about Oholiav. It says. It says the Ulahoros Nasam Beliba who the Ahaliyav. There it just uses and. The two of them are together. It doesn't say Ito with him. Ahaliyav wasn't with Betzalel in this week's parsha. Instead, it was him and Ahaliyav. What prompted the Torah to change the lashon? That's what seems to be bothering Rashi. So Rashi says, interestingly enough, he says. Oholiav was Shevet Dan, min ha-Yerudim shebeshvatim. He was among the lower of the tribes. Because he was one of the shvachos. One of these, Dan was born from one of the shvachos, not from Rachel and Leah. But it's equating them to Betzalel for the work of the Mishkan. That Betzalel was from one of the great tribes. He was from the Shevet of Yehuda, the great Shevet of Yehuda. He was a descendant from Hur, who was martyred during the Golden Calf, and his great grandmother was Miriam, another tzaddik. He had all the lineage on his side. But Rashi says the Torah is equating them, unlike earlier in Parshas. In last week's parsha, where Oholiav was with Betzalel, meaning almost like secondary to Betzalel, here, when they're actually constructing the Mishkan, the Torah places them together, just a simple vav. They are one and the other, and Rashi says, this is L'kaim Mashanema, or a pasuk from Eov, V'lo nikar shoa lifnei dal. You can't recognize the rich before the poor. What's pshat in Rashi? Rashi seems to be teaching us that there was undoubtedly Oholiav is equated now to Betzalel. It was clearly Oholiav's personal merit which enabled him to qualify for this position and made him worthy of receiving the Ruach HaKodesh to teach others how to make the Mishkan. He's placed in the seat, and Rashi wants to emphasize that despite the fact that Oholiav was from Mate Dan, he was from the lower tribe, does not have any of the lineage that Betzalel has. Nevertheless, because of his ability through his efforts and his midos and his good deeds, midos tovos, he was able to rise to the highest levels and connect with the ruach of Hashem, the same way Betzalel was, so that two of them together would be able to figure out how to properly construct the Mishkan according to Hashem's instructions. So we see that from here, that despite irrespective of one's impediments that one may have in personal background or environment, that anybody has the ability through their efforts and good deeds like a Holiav to rise to the highest levels and to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, he's saying that one should never allow one's personal feelings of inferiority or doubt hold one back in one's efforts to achieve spiritual growth, to grow in Ruchnius. So, and I think that one major impetus that I got from the Rosh Yeshiva over the years was, many of us at Kesser Torah were Baalei Tshuva, and I personally felt kind of inferior to people that had grown up from the beginning, gone to yeshiva at the beginning, and felt like how could I ever be like them or even get close to them in their way they daven and their avodas Hashem and their knowledge, certainly in their knowledge of Torah. But what the Rosh Yeshiva did for me, and I think to everybody else, was he told us that each of us, we shouldn't let any personal feelings of inferiority or doubt hold us back, and that we have the capability of it. Every Jew has the capability of whatever background, if they work hard at it, have the ability to achieve tremendous ruchnius and to grow in Torah. We shouldn't feel inadequate. So he kind of pushed me, and I think many other people in yeshiva, to do things. Like he pushed me to daven for the Amud when I felt inadequate. He pushed me to teach a Gemara class when I didn't think I was able to do so. And he taught, and he went, and at some point told me to give Divrei Torah. And so he constantly over the years was always pushing to not be afraid and not let any feelings of inferiority hold one back. And I pointed out at the Rebbitzin's recent birthday party that Rebbitzin Rosenblatt herself was the impetus for me to be able to write the Divrei Torah that I've been writing every week and sending out. It was because Rebbitzin Rosenblatt pushed me to do that as well. So it really must run in the family, I guess. But so that was I think that it's not just me, but I think the alumni of Kesser Torah have become tremendous people, Rabbeim, Malamdim, achievers in whatever area they were in. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that the Rosh Yeshiva believed in us and pushed and believed in every Yid and every Jew, and always tried to push every Jew, and certainly people that were close to him, to be better and to do more. I think I have a lot of a hakaras hatov to the Rosh Yeshiva for everything that's happened in my life since then. And of course, for many other people, there are probably hundreds of other people, even more closer to the Rosh Yeshiva, that can say that as well. So, and I think it's on, today is the Yahrzeit to remember some of the amazing things that he did that contributed to anyone that had contact with the Rosh Yeshiva. And I think everyone that met the Rosh Yeshiva became a better person. The more they got to know him, the better kind of person they became, emulating many of his mitos. Okay. As I say, the Rosh Yeshiva used to say that he didn't want to talk too long because he didn't want programs to go on too long. So I'd like to turn the mic over to Yaakov Rosenblatt. So take over.
Okay, Ashakach Rabbeinu Avram David. We're so grateful to you and to Susie for really stepping up and not only taking care of the operations of the minyanim, of the tefillos, and of the limud Torah that continues, Baruch Hashem, to go on at Yeshiva Kesser Torah, and also you're giving a weekly shiur. So this is a good plug opportunity for at my mother's house. Men and women invited. I've been there a couple of times, and whoever hasn't participated in a shir by Rabbi Garber has and not participated in a shir of Rabbi Garber in his days. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. It's a big chizuk to us, all of us, for everybody to take a few moments. And like Rabbeinu Avram David just said, we're not going to delay anything. I want to jump right into it. So following up on what we just heard, and with regards to the Mishkan, there's a beautiful Rashi and a very famous Rashi. I just want to point out something about it. Very famous. The Nesiim, they were the tribal leaders of all the Shvatim. And all of a sudden, when it came time for everybody to donate to the Mishkan, to the building of the Mishkan, they took a back seat. They said, whatever's missing at the end, we'll make it up. We'll complete whatever's lacking. And then they saw that everybody just donated, and there was not really much lacking. And at that point, they said, what should we do? And they realized there was something for them to do. They could donate the stones, the beautiful gemstones that were worn on the shoulders of the Kohen Gadol's garments. So, but it bothered them. It bothered them that they were in a position that they had to ask, Ma aleinu lasos. I'm just quoting Rashi. They said there was ma aleinu lasos. What should we do? What can we do? It bothered them that they were in this position. So much so that later, when it came to the actual inauguration of the Mishkan, what they did was that they were the first to actually bring, to offer korbanos in the brand new structure, in the brand new Mishkan. Okay, so what's going on over here? First of all, does that make up for it? The fact that they're later on bringing korbanos, how does that sort of make up for the fact that they took a back seat and let everybody else donate first? Rashi seems to indicate that they figured out how to kind of apologize or for their not getting involved from the get-go. So I was just thinking that perhaps we could learn Rashi like this. Perhaps we can say that these Nesiim, their thought obviously was very, very lofty. They figured, well, we'll make up the balance. See whatever else everybody could do, and then we'll make up the balance. It's a beautiful approach, but at the same time, nothing is as good as getting involved from the get-go. Join with everybody, get together. Perhaps that would have been a better situation. And then, but unfortunately, they came to a realization when they did that ma aleinu lasos. What shall we do? A Jew in a situation of what shall I do is a very good place to be, and it's a very not good place to be. It's not good to be because all of a sudden I don't know where I am. I don't know which direction to go. I don't know which path to take and which one of my kohos should I use. So that's the negative side. The positive side is ma aleinu lasos means, well, I got to do something. A Jew knows I got to do something. It says, Vayelech Moshe, and Moshe went. I'm sure the Hasidic Torah would say it's teaching us that one has to be a holech, a goer. We can't just do nothing. That's not what we're here on this world for. So they came to this realization of ma aleinu lasos. Everything seems to have been taken as far as the structure of the Mishkan. But then they found, Baruch Hashem, they found that in the garment for the Kohen Gadol, they can purchase the jewels. So how did they repair that? How did they change that in the next time? They took Musar from themselves and they learned that it's that next thing that's going to take place in the Mishkan is going to be the bringing of the korbanos. What is the bringing of the korbanos during the inaugural days of the Mishkan? The Chanukas HaMizbeach, where we're being mechanech, which means we're starting off, we're inaugurating the use of the Mizbeach. Now, the Mizbeach was part of the so-called fixed costs of the structure of the Mishkan, and maybe we can say that by them beginning the service of the korbanos on the Mishkan, this way they were also now being somehow taking part in the so-called structure of the Mishkan as well. So if that's the case, that means that by them realizing ma'aleinu lasos, oh no, what did we do? But it was more, they took Musa from it and they said, well, let's do what we can for now. And then the next time we have an opportunity to be from the first, the ones involved in the actual inauguration, we're going to step up and do that. And I was reading this Rashi, and I think that there's a lot of Kesed Torah in this Rashi. And obviously the what ma'aleinu lasos, what can we do? Like Rabbeinu Avram David Garber just said, that a person who came in maybe not having the benefit of a Torah upbringing, but nevertheless, when they came in, they were viewed and encouraged that they're holy in their place, and they're they're destined for their own greatness. And ma'aleinu lasos, what more can I do to accomplish? What can I do? So we used to sing there Friday night at the Sudos. We used to sing Geval Jebrider, why are you sleeping? Against zwei, drei, vier. So we said, Nishkin davening, no davening, only sleeping. So what are we doing on this world? That's Rashi here. Ma'aleinu lasos. We can't just, what are we doing on this world? We got to do something about it. So this was taught in Kesed Torah, whether it was through Nigunim, whether it was through Divrei Torah, whether it was through Tfilos. There's a time for davening. So a person didn't grow up necessarily with being able to even say the words, and it was difficult. But as soon as my father, Zechrein Levracha, felt that a person's got enough, he would push him up to the Amud. And so through the tefillah again, it was the obligation of every person to do something. So we saw it through singing, we saw it through learning, we saw it through davening. And then of course there's the midos through action. We had many people in the yeshiva would be involved in all kinds of opportunities of chesed, whether it was done in the home with the famous Kesed Torah Chesed Committee, being involved with that, or being mechazik another person that came into yeshiva. It was really, and Bez Shem continues to be a very strong brotherhood of, I heard that the Rothschilds, where they sat in shul, the Rothschilds, there was no armrest on their row. Every other row had armrests, but when the original Rothschild sat in shul, there were no armrests in between each seat, because that was to symbolize that there's no walls in between the brothers. And I think that in Kesed Torah, everybody felt part of one unit, one family, and we still feel that way, Baruch Hashem. And it's a very tremendous thing when a person can encourage the other person, whether it's to grow in their ruchnius or to help them in their gashmius. And Baruch Hashem, my mother, Tibod L'chaim Tovim Aruchim, was instrumental in many of the shiduchim of the Bachrim, because acting as a mother to all of them, and of course, no one can ever forget the wonderful speeches that were given at all the Sheva Brachos, that everybody was made to feel good and everybody's made to feel important. And it's not made to because it's an act, but rather it's made to because this is who we are, and this is what my father, Zechrein Levracha, this is what he believed in, and he was happy, and he could have, like many of his friends, were people that Baruch Hashem were nourished by the greats, Rav Aaron Kotler and Rav Henoch Leibowitz, and the stories that he used to talk about, Rabbi Leib Malin, and Rabbi Eliezer Silver, and all these tremendous people. But he was able to, at the same time, like Liav, to connect the next generations of Balei Tshuva connect generations of their families to that beautiful link of Mesorah, to feel that they too are part and are connected through this. So I want to just give my humble bracha, my humble brachas, and thanks, of course, to my mother, who should live and be well, happily, and with a lot of nachas continued, and Rabbi Garber and Mrs. Susie Garber, to have a lot of nachas in the same vein, in the same path that Kesed Torah was established, which was of midos tovos and a real joyous connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should continue in that vein of midos tovos and connecting through tefillah, through nigunim, through good Shabbos meals, and of course slow davening. Okay, everybody, we should be zeicha. Eibusher should help us. We should be zeicha to Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mhera v'yameinu. Amen.
Just in the same theme, it says in the end of Gemara and Brachas, Hanifter mechavero al yomru lo lech bishalom with the base, elo lech lishalom with the lamed. And then it says Hanifter min hames, someone who parts from a mace, al yomru lo lech lishalom elo lech bishalom. So what's the difference? Why when someone parts from someone who's living, someone who's a friend, we say lech bishalom, go in peace, and when we depart from someone who's a mace, we say lech bishalom. So the Maharal explains that mechavero, when we say mechavero, we say every step that someone takes when they're alive, they're getting closer to their shleimus and accomplishing their mission on this world. So when you're departing from someone like that, you say lech lishalom, go to your shleimus. Like, in other words, you're on the road to reaching more and more shleimus. By a nifter, we say bishalom because we want them to go with their shleimus that they already accomplished, and so you're telling them, go, you kind of reached your shleimus already, so be a nuach with that shleimus that you've reached in your lifetime. So, kind of like, a little bit what Rabbi Garber was saying earlier, and Yaakov touched on it as well. Besides my father was really a role model in this, because the accomplishments that he has accomplished, whether or not it was, all the music that he composed, and, the svarim that he wrote, the shmuzim, and just being the Rosh Yeshiva and running the yeshiva and having this idea to open the yeshiva and working with so many hundreds and hundreds of talmidim, and having the shul and being a father and a grandfather and a husband. These are all huge accomplishments that that he reached his shleimus, and he accomplished what he needed to accomplish in this world. And not only that, but he left over lots of peiros, that we see all here today, and those who are not really, those who didn't join us, but and kind of, Rabbi Garber, you reached on this earlier, like just working with with the talmidim and helping other people reach their shleimus and help us and give us what we needed in order to be able to go on our journey towards our shleimus, so that way we can, after 120, lech bishalom. But that is a tremendous zchus, and I think it was a tremendous zchus for all of us to know him and to have shaykhus and to really help us through this great journey of life. So I just wanted to again take this opportunity to thank Rabbi Garber for putting this together. In Lilo Nishmas, my father, Elyakim Getzel, Ben Yechiel Michel, is Neshama Shav and Aliyah, and we should all be zeicha to continue our great journey of reaching our shleimus.
Everything. First of all, Poskin Baksanya, thank you, Rabbi Garber, for including me and just allowing me to say a few words here. Just a little tiny thing on the parsha. Betzalel was an artisan, and we don't really makshiv art that much in Judaism. It's not one of our big things per se, but the Rambam says is that if somebody is is a little bit melancholy or a little down, like they should hear music, and music can really uplift people. And I was just thinking about Rabbi Rosenblatt, that he had a quality of his music that he sung and that he wrote. It was an expression of his neshama. It wasn't just, okay, well, somebody's a professional musician, they sing, whatever. It was coming from himself. And, he was a person who walked with it, like he had a song inside of himself. You could feel it. And like most great people, it's not just what they say and what they do, but it's who they are. So I think we were all impacted so much by who he was. And yet, in my experience in yeshiva, it's so inextricably bound with, you guys, Yaakov and Moshe and Batsheva and the Rebbitzin. Obviously, it's all one unit. They work together. And my friends that I've had for 45 years, very good friends, Moshe Borowski, Zerpona Livracha, Yaakov Blackman and Gedalia, I just saw a few weeks ago in Israel, et cetera, et cetera. But I was thinking back in the early days of Kesser Torah, how did it start? Rabbi Scheinberger, Zichrono Livracha, we knew in the old city, and he had met Rabbi Rosenblatt in Israel, so he wanted to make a yeshiva. Well, how do you start a yeshiva? So in this case, I would think you'd get a group of Talmidim together. That would be either you take them from another yeshiva, or you get, I don't know. You need some kind of business plan, You don't just say, okay, yeshiva's open, like let people come. But there was no plan, I was just, Avraham Scheinberg convinced me to stop at New York for a few days. I was going back to Israel, and I started learning with Rabbi Rosenblatt in his attic up there, stayed in their house, and there was no yeshiva, and we ended up getting Gedalia Meyer, and other friends of mine came from Canada, and it just happened. It was hashkacha pratis, because if it's like if you open up a store in your house and people just start coming to buy, you don't advertise, there's no marketing plan at all. And I felt that was some incredible hashkacha that everything kind of came together. One quality Rabbi Rosenblatt had, I think everybody would agree, is that it wasn't about him. He wasn't there to make a big shot out of himself at all. It was all about the Talmidim, of course, everybody else as well. So he was infinitely patient. When we would learn with him, it was just, he made us do everything, allowed us to do everything. He wasn't there to show off. He didn't want to. It was all about developing the Talmud. And I think that's a model for a parent or a Rebbe or a Rebbitzin, that he was into developing the Talmidim. And it was line by line, word by word. And I think that was kind of the first steps for most of us to really make a kinyan in Torah, where often in my career afterwards, at times it's very painful the way people learn. Like, say, there's a question, here's the answer, is this, like, you don't even know what's going on, And that persists with me till this day quite frequently, that people just favorite line of mine is don't confuse activity for progress. And he imbued with us a sense of trying to understand what's the Gemara saying, what's the Chumash saying, what's the question, what's the answer. Can't skip over that. We got so much from it. We had a home. Those of us who were in Kesser Torah, we went to the Rosenblatt house. It was a home. It wasn't like yeshiva where you have the institutional setting. We had a home. They gave endless time to us. I didn't, of course, appreciate it at the time because I wasn't an adult, and we realized they gave money. We got a lot of therapy from them as well, whatever was needed. The whole family was part of it. And for me personally, I had my brother, Steve, maybe on this call, I'm not sure, was part of it. And my sister, Celia, met Pesach, who was in the yeshiva, because she became the secretary. And from there launched, a lot of lives, a lot of children and grandchildren, Blan Hora. And it was just a launching pad to life where a lot of things came together. And it feels like it's still alive. And in many ways, Rabbi Rosenblatt is still alive. And he lives within all of us. And, that's just been a great bracha. And, I just hope we can all continue to share that feeling and that bracha. And we're just very fortunate for it. And, thank you.
I just want to add just that his speaking of living within us, it's his the fact that it's amazing at Kesser Torah because the davening at Kesser Torah is different than pretty much anywhere else, almost anywhere else in Kew Garden Hills and maybe all over the country, because even though it's been 6 years, it's amazing. We daven slow, and people come to daven slow. And I finished davening Shmona Esrei, and I still see sometimes half or more than it. And I think I daven slow. I think half the congregation is still davening. So it's an amazing legacy that it continues even to today. And like Hashgach, it's amazing that I don't know how it happens. There's nobody there every half an hour somehow. 25 minutes after, or 5 minutes to 9 o'clock, there's nobody, maybe one person in the room. And then at 9 o'clock, magically, 20, 30, 40, more people suddenly pop into the shul every half an hour. So people count on it. It's just an incredible thing. I don't know how it happens, but I think it's an ongoing, it seems to be an ongoing nace that the Rosh Yeshiva, his legacy continues to live on all day long, every day, 365 days a year in reality today, besides everything that we've already talked about. Okay. I picked out there's a number of videos and things available. I picked out 4 things that I felt, in my personal opinion, would be that were trying to typical something to help refresh some good memories we have about the Rosh Yeshiva and also reflect some of the amazing things that the Rosh Yeshiva used to say. So I've got 4 short videos. A few of them are like 2 or 3 minute Divrei Torah. But you'll probably recognize some of them. And then we're going to conclude with that.
A wonderful story. The story goes that a bacha in Lakewood walked by Rabbaran's room. Nobody else was in the room but Rabbaran, and Rabbaran started to dance. The bacher was amazed. He sees Rabbi in a room just dancing. When Rabbi looked up and saw this bacher, let's call him Ruvain, he saw Ruvain walking by and looking at him. He quickly called Ruvain in and said, Ruvain, please quickly, with a tremendous glow on his face, with tremendous simcha, he said, Ruvain, call in Shimon quickly, another bacher, who was one of the outstanding Talmidim in the yeshiva. This bacher, Ruvain, is stunned. He doesn't know what's going on. Rabbi is standing there and dancing, quickly calling Shimon. He doesn't know what's going on. Anyway, he calls Shimon, and Shimon sits down with the Rosh Yeshiva for a while, and they're sitting and talking and learning. And then when Shimon walked out, Ruvain ran over to him, and he said to him, what's going on? Please explain me what's going on. Rabbi is dancing, and Rabbi quickly says to summon you. And Shimon told Ruvain the story. Rabbi was struggling with a bir hagra on Choshen Mishpat Siman Chav Ches for 20 years. 20 years he was struggling to understand this bir hagra. Finally that day, Rabbi felt that he knew Pshat in the Bir Hagra, and he started to dance, and he quickly asked Ruvain to bring Shimon, who was one of the outstanding Talmidim in the yeshiva, to share the Bir Hagra with him and to share his joy. This is the meaning of Amelis Batera, 20 years struggling to understand a Bir Hagra.
Min hatayim, Baruch el Elyakim, Shebranu le'Eloi, Baruch el Elyakim, Shebranu le'Eloi, vehevdilanu, min hatayim, ben hasan lanu, toira semes, oyoy v'chaye olam, not hab'zoicheinu, ben hasan lanu, toira semes, oyoy v'chaye olam, not hab'zoicheinu. Eliyahu ha-Hanovi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Gilodi, Eliyahu ha-Novi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi.
Big gems on Parshas Koirach. So it says in the pasuk, Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim, that the people of Koirach said to Moshe, you're not the only one that's holy. Kol ki kulam kedoshim. Kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. The whole congregation is holy. Because we all saw at Har Sinai and heard the Rebbeinu Shalom give the first two commandments. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. So why are you taking everything for yourself, Moshe and Aaron? We should have a piece of the action. Okay, then the Torah adds Uv'seicham Hashem, and within them there is godliness. Everybody The whole generation was holy. And the Sipurna says, Mikaf regel at kot kot. From head to toe, they were really holy. And the Torah concludes, Uveseicham Hashem, and within them, Hashem existed. That's the simple. The Chassidish Torah is saying, they were, in addition to the simple holiness that they had, they went beyond that holiness. The way they davened is something we have to learn how to daven. Because sometimes people daven to Hashem and they mean themselves. Ooh, if I tell everybody that I am holy, they'll think I'm so great. Uveseicham Hashem. But they didn't do that. They didn't advertise their frumkeit. They didn't advertise their frumkeit, but they kept their frumkeit internally, not externally. Nobody has to see how what my frumkeit is. Nobody has to see it. Uveseicham Hashem, the right way to daven and to learn privately. Uveseicham Hashem. Within them is Hashem. It's internal, not to be shown off, not to be done because they're showing off.
Siyeyem shalom my taiva uvrocha chayim chein v'chesed ay v'rachmim oleinu ol kol Yisrael amecha b'cheinu avinu kulanu ki echad Panecha giviyova, panecha nasato lanu, da-da-da-da-da-da. Hashem Elokeinu, Oitoi ras chayim, v'yam vas chesed, uhu tzedaka yuveracham. Ay, v'rachmim, ay. Ay, v'chayim v'sholom. Ay, v'tovay v'yeh v'yeinecha, v'cheinu v'vorech, es kol amcha Yisrael, chol v'voleis, v'chol shah, v'shleimecha, v'roif ois v'sholom. Baruch ato Hashem, Vorech Zama Yisrael Basholom.
Okay, thank you everybody for attending, and I think we're ending with Sim Shalom, that we should see that Shalom over all of Klal Yisrael, which is something that the Rosh Yeshiva certainly wanted, and hopefully has had an influence in bringing it about. Yahrzeit Hashem, his memory should be a guide for all of us to continue doing the things and the values that he taught us, and we should be zocha to see Kesher Torah in Yerushalayim, all of us in Yerushalayim next year at this time. Thank you, everybody.
shebranu lich loydoi baruch Elyakim shebranu lich loydoi behivdi vanu min hatayim baruch Elyakim shebranu lich loydoi baruch Elyakim shebranu lich loydoi behivdi vanu min hatayim